Brought to you by
The ones who dream are the ones who own the future. What's your next dream? Let's create it together.
Your Excellency, very, very nice. Welcome to the show. In French, they say bienvenue.
Bienvenue.
Bienvenue. Please welcome to the Cedric Live Show.
Thank you very much, Cedric, for having me.
So this is our set. These are my team. As you can see, they've had lunch, so they're a bit slow, but they will pick up.
Okay.
Maybe we come to the embassy and you give them some coffee. They need to wake up.
The next time, but I'm sure that they are very vibrant and dynamic.
Yes.
I can see that they are very vibrant and dynamic.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Cedric Live Show, proudly sponsored by MTN and hosted at the wonderful Speak Apartments on Wampio Avenue. Today on the show, I have a wonderful guest, His Excellency, the Ambassador to Uganda, Mr. Jules Armand Anniambosou. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, Cedric, for having me.
It's an honor, and I know you had to dig into your busy schedule to come and see us, but thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for receiving me. I feel myself at home already.
I hope so. Ambassador, I always start with this first question. What is your, you feel at home already, you said that, and I know I've met you before, and you've already become a very good friend of our country, Uganda. You're constantly promoting the different causes. How has your time been since you came to Uganda?
I've been living for 7 months now.
Yeah.
In this beautiful country.
Yes.
I spent my time to learn about Uganda and the Ugandans. So spend time at the office, the embassy, the residence. But my priority is to be on the ground to meet the Ugandans. The youth, the entrepreneurs, of course, work with the institutions.
Yes.
So I'm very glad, happy, and it's an honor for me to be in Uganda to do that, to contribute to reinforce the relationship between France and Uganda.
Ambassador, I was reading somewhere that, yes, you are French, but of Beninese origins. How does this fit in? Of course, I know there are many people in France originally from other countries.
You're right, and you can see that even though I'm French,
yes,
I'm black, I'm African.
Yes.
I'm so proud to be African. It's true that I was born in Benin.
Yes.
That I left very young with my mother to study in France.
Yes.
I first learned mining engineering. Then I did the National Schools of Administration.
Yes.
But to sum up, I spent 29% of my life growing in Africa.
Yes.
And the other part in France. But I think that it is a kind of a gift, a real advantage to be both African and French,
yes.
To be able to work in Africa.
Yes.
Yes.
So tell me, but of course we're going to increase that percentage in Africa because we hope to keep you for a few years. So maybe it can go from 29 to 40%. Depends on how long we have you. And it's very interesting because you also represented your ambassador of Benin
to France, to UK, and also to Spain.
Yes.
After the request of the Beninese president
yes.
in 2030,
yes.
he he asked the French President François Hollande to let me available to work for my born country.
Right.
What I did for 3 years and a half, and I was so proud to be able to do that. I think that this period was for me a very, very good opportunity to learn more about my born country, to learn more about the African continent. So I was so glad to be useful for both France and Benin.
Yes, and now of course you represent France in Uganda as an ambassador.
As a French citizen,
yes,
to represent France to Uganda is for me an honor, because yes, this country, for the French president Emmanuel Macron, for his government, is one of the most important in East Africa. Yes. To work together for stability, security, safety, because without security, stability, we cannot talk about any development.
Because he's one of the most progressive presidents in the world at the moment in terms of visibility and what he's trying to do, and uniting people and you know, always being at the forefront of economic development. And I hear he's your very good friend.
Emmanuel Macron is really one of the current presidents in the world that daily work for multilateralism, because the world is changing, and we cannot, for the key issues, continue to think that it will be only one part of the world, the West, or I don't know, another part of the world, who will be able to find the solution. We need to co-product. We need to work together. And I'm so proud to be an ambassador of France when Emmanuel Macron is president, because he has a vision, especially on the African issues.
Yes. And I hear you are also the coordinator of the Presidential Council for Africa, created by, I think, your president, to put a face on a new face on the relationship between France and Africa.
That is true. Emmanuel Macron is a very young president, yes, but dynamic, with a vision. You said it, Cedric. I knew him a little bit because I was a classmate of Emmanuel Macron. We were together as a student at the National School of Administration. Right. The National School of Administration is one of the highest schools in France, created by General de Gaulle after the Second World War, to contribute to rebuild the country. Because after the war, France had no state, no administration, of course. So what the General de Gaulle did at that moment is to rebuild the country by creating new institutions, new administration. So from this school came many presidents of French Republic, many key players, the private sector, and so on and so on. And we met in 2002 as a student, and since 2002, I'm close to the president. I'm loyal to the president. I'm one of not only supporters, because I share the vision. It's somebody very clever, very open-minded, and it is because he's very clever and open-minded that less than 5 months after he came to power, in August 2017, he created the Presidential Council for Africa. What is it? I was a coordinator. The president asked me to be during more than two years and a half, a coordinator of the Presidential Council of Africa. Emmanuel Macron really want to change the way France and the African continent, but all the African continent used to work together.
Yes.
Because in the past, most of the Africans, they said, oh, okay, we don't understand really what is happening. We are not happy. Some French also. So what Emmanuel Macron asked us to do is to not only work with the institutions, the African institution, president, government, administration, and so on, but also find the time to go on the ground to meet the new key players, the civil, the youth, the students, the civil society, the entrepreneurs, and that is very, very new because he wants to cast the reality on the ground.
Right.
So, the Presidential Council for Africa that I led during the 2 years and a half, our main mission is not to do the job of the minister, the administration, the ambassador at the place of the ambassador, the minister of the administration, but to be present on the ground, to meet the real people of all the African continent. So I spent a lot of time to visit not all the African countries, but many of them.
Right. Now we're going to go to commercial. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about your first visit to Uganda, your first impressions, we'll be right back. The Cedric Live Show is sponsored by MTN and hosted at the wonderful speaker partners at One Avenue. Stay tuned.
The ones who dream are the ones who own the future. What's your next dream? Let's create it together.
Speak Apartments offers you 5-star of the city into the lavish and spacious living room. Those who appreciate the finer things in life. Speak Apartments is also offering and relax defines fine living. Also on the premises is East Africa's largest gym, children's play area, ample parking, Havana restaurant and bar has you covered with a number of cuisines from around the world. If it's fine dining you love, Speak Apartments defines the fun. Located at the edge of Wampeo Avenue, Speak Apartments is your luxury home in the heart of Kampala City.
Welcome back to the Cedric Live Show, sponsored by MTN and hosted at the wonderful Speak Apartments on Wampeo Avenue. I'm still here with His Excellency Jules Armand Anniambosou.
Good pronunciation.
Good pronunciation.
Bravo.
I'm getting better. So I'm still here with the ambassador, and we're talking about, I suppose, the Presidential Council, which was created by yourself and created by President Macron. Managed by you are the coordinator, and I suppose what you were saying is this council has been created to create engagement between France and the people on the ground in the countries where you're present, and I think you're doing a wonderful job because I do see a lot of things on social media, I see a lot of things in my favorite area, which is sports. You're meeting the sports leaders and all the different things that you're trying to do. But now, Ambassador, I have a question. You know, traditionally, the relationship between not just Uganda, but between Africa and Europe, not specifically France, but in general, Europe, has always been a hard one to, you know, to explain. But of course, now you have the emergence in the last maybe 10, 15, 20 years of the Chinese, who seem to sort of come in and just take over, you know, in terms of their projects. How can we, you know, as Uganda specifically and as France, how do you think we can make that relationship more fluid? So we see a lot of French investment coming in, you know, into our economy, and I suppose maybe Ugandans doing business in France. I think there's a natural synergy already, you know. When you think of France, it doesn't seem too far away. So how can we do it? How can we improve that relationship?
Thank you very much, Cedric. That's a very big question.
Yes.
And a very interesting one. And you go straight to the point.
Yes.
What the France would like to build with the Africans, it's to co-product, because we should from now think about co-production, not a relationship based on inequality, because inequality relationship is not a fair relationship. So we cannot work for the middle and long term. It is why exactly in Ouagadougou, Ouagadougou is the capital of Burkina Faso.
Yes.
That's
where Thomas Sankara was from.
Yes, President Sankara from Burkina Faso. Yes. In November 2017, Emmanuel Macron delivered a speech that is a kind of framework of what we should together, French, European, but all the Africans, try to share. New relationship based on respect, reciprocity, and equality.
Correct.
That means that all the sectors, and the first priority of the French president is education. Education. And I understand very well that in Uganda too, President Museveni's first priority is how to skill the youth, the girl, to be able to get job after learning at school. So for the French president, education, priority number one. It's what this week at the EU-Uganda Forum, the President of the Republic of Uganda summed up by talking about software, education skills.
Yes.
In the same speech, Emmanuel Macron delivered in 2017 in Ouagadougou, he talked about business, sport, and especially about the business. The new way France would like to work with all the African continents, especially here in Uganda, and it's why I'm trying to do with my all the stakeholders, Ugandan stakeholders, is to request to any French entrepreneurs who will come to Uganda, not only to find a local partners, but if necessary, to create it. Because we cannot talk about relation based on reciprocity if, on the one hand, those who have the money, they come, they do investment, because Uganda is probably in Africa one of the country any investors who invest, who make profit, know that he could take a part of his money to send it where he would like to send it. But to do that, we also need to co-product, to create and to share the values with the Ugandans. So I just take this example because it is one of the main change the new French policy focus on. There is another sector, sport.
That's one of my favorite topics.
I also like sport.
Yes.
Football especially, but also rugby.
Yes. Those are big sports in France. You're the world champion.
You know, we are the world champion.
Yes.
We are the world champion. And the President Macron is also, he likes sport, especially football.
Everybody likes football.
So,
but I am a tennis guy. So.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I know. One of the main change the French president asked, not only the French, but all the Africans to work on, is to invest in Africa.
Yes.
Invite the French to come to invest in Africa. Talk with our partners, the institutions, the private sector, of course, the government. And I have the chance to meet the First Lady. We talk about education, how to empower the youth, to teach them. But we also talk about sport.
Very important.
Very important, because sport is not only run after the ball, quick in the ball. Sport is a very strong soft power. Sport is business. Sport is also one of the ways to share some key values in any society. And you, the Ugandans, to sum up, it is maybe the French who have to learn from you, because you have the talent.
Too much. We have too much talent.
They are too much talent. Football, athleticism, you have too much talent. But we need to work together to build the equipment, to not help, because I don't like the word help. We need to work together, to co-produce together, to elevate all the opportunities and potentiality of this country to be between the best in the world. And I'm sure that we can make it.
Yeah, we have the weather.
Yes.
We have the talent. We have the nutrition. We have the space. So,
of course. You know, Cedric, I spent my first weeks after my arrival in this beautiful country to travel all over the country.
Now we're going to stop right there, Your Excellency. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to commercial and we'll come right back. The Cedric Live Show is brought to you by MTN, hosted at the wonderful Speak Apartments. We'll be right back with His Excellency, the Ambassador.
The ones who dream are the ones who own the future. What's your next dream? Let's create it together.
Welcome back to the Cedric Live Show, proudly sponsored by MTN and hosted at the wonderful Speak Apartments on Wampo Avenue. And we're here with our guest, His Excellency Mr. Jules Armand Anniambosou. Good.
Very good.
There. I'm getting there.
Yes.
So, Your Excellency, you were telling me about sport and I think its impact. And I think we were talking about sport as a tool. Of course, as we know, it's a $1.7 trillion a year industry.
Yes.
But the practicalities of doing it in terms of getting it going, I guess, is where the challenge is. Because, I've been involved in sport for a long time. And you have, actually, in France, you have one of the biggest sports management companies, Lagardère.
Yes.
Lagardère, and they are responsible for many of the media rights. I think even the Africa Cup of Nations, they manage that with Orange.
Yes.
Was it Orange?
With Orange, yes.
Yes, with Orange.
True. With another French company.
Yes. So they're quite big. So I think the challenge is to bring the expertise to the talent and merge and your experiences. Like, for example, I was watching the World Cup and the biggest star on the French team was Kylian Mbappé. And he was only, at the time, I think 19.
19 years.
He was 19 years old. And to think that when I was watching the World Cup, Kylian Mbappé was born in 2001.
Yes, it's true.
And
it's true.
Now he's one of the biggest names in the world.
But you know why? Because, and it's exactly what we would like to co-product with the Africans. At the beginning of the 80s,
yes,
the French government, the private sector, many institutions linked to sport decided to implement a very ambitious policy linked to all the sports, all the disciplines. So we built schools, we built equipment, we teach the youth, and you took a very good example, Kylian Mbappé. Kylian Mbappé, I think that he was naturally talented.
Yes.
But only the talent is not sufficient. You need to be trained. You need to be taught. You need sometimes to be helped to grow up in the right way. And it's what we did for the football game, handball, tennis. You know it better than me. So I think that we can not only do the same in Africa, in a country like Uganda, because you have the talent, but we can do better. That needs a commitment of the
government,
the private sector, and that also need to work with the right partners from France, because in many ways we are the best.
Yes.
we are the best, and we are fully committed because sports one of the priority of the French president. And another difference, France focus on compared to other countries. We don't want to pick the African talent and to send them to France or to Europe. We work with the Africans in Africa by building the best equipment for the Africans to help the talent to grow up in the interest of their own country first.
Yes.
And because we will be part of this improvement, this involvement, France also will have a part of interest in this way of working. When we met the first time, Cedric, you used an expression that I found fantastic.
Do you want me to repeat it?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about. I said that a tennis ball, it bounces in Uganda the same way it bounces in France.
Exactly.
So, the problem is not the tennis ball. The problem is how you hit the tennis ball. So the only difference between our athletes and athletes that grew up in France or in the West, when I say the West, I mean America, and now even in some places in Europe, Serbia, and places like that, is the technique. How to play the sport properly. That's it. And if that can be achieved through some sort of partnership between France and Uganda, we will have athletes playing in, from here playing in PSG, playing at Roland Garros, playing rugby in Stade de France, wherever it is, you will have all those people. And those people will come back to help in these communities to produce more athletes. Because you find Kylian Mbappe, his role model was Thierry Henry. Absolutely. Before Thierry Henry, his role model was Laurent. You know, there were different, Michel Platini and so on and so forth.
Jean Tigana.
Yes, I was watching your French rugby team. I was watching a player called Intermac now, but I remember his father.
Yes.
He was a good player. He played for France as well. So we have to have that consistent quality in Uganda.
I totally share, Cedric. Yes,
teaching.
I totally share this view. It's the same. Our president and our institutions ask us to work on the ground. So here in Uganda, somebody like you, the first lady, the minister, the state minister in charge of sport.
Yes. I think you should have mentioned those two first, then me like fifth or sixth, because the first lady, then the minister, then Cedric, you skip, you breathe 5 times, then you say Cedric.
Okay, okay. Yes, I think that it's exactly what we have to do, and we can make it by working with the First Lady.
Yes.
And as I said, I had the chance to meet her.
Yes.
And she is fully committed.
Yes.
With the other members of the government in charge of sport, and of course with people like you, Cedric.
Yes, yes.
Because you talk when you talk about a sport that sounds on my ear like a music.
Yes.
Because you understand very well that sport is economy, and with sport, we can create a lot of jobs.
Not even that, even health.
Yes.
The more sports you play,
yes,
the less health problems the society has.
Absolutely.
Because you know, when you go to Europe or you travel, every evening, every morning, the gyms are full. People are running. People are, trying to do something. So I think sport has the ability to transform a society, even from a security perspective. Because when young people are idle, they do silly things. When there's something to do like a sport, pick any sport, I don't care what sport it is, they tend to spend their energy in those particular sports.
Absolutely. And let me add that sport is also one of the ways to share common values. Respect of the rules. Respect his own partners,
yes,
and so on and so on. But we also be careful by saying that to not forget the girl and the women.
Yes, gender equality.
Gender equality. It's also one of the priority of the French president, our government.
Do you know actually the sportswomen in Uganda are more successful than the sportsmen?
True.
Yes, we have our women's netball team. Halima is recent.
Yes.
Our women's soccer team has qualified, or they have qualified before, to play at, I think, World Cup level. The rugby,
True.
They have played World Cup.
Wow.
the women. We have the netball team, who are, I think, number 6 in the world.
Yes, I met some players of the netball team at the French residence 1 month ago, because I organized an event for all the federations, football, but we were not there.
I think they forgot. Sometimes they forget me.
No, never. You are my.
Sometimes they forget me. But
I cannot forget you. Cricket. I would like to learn cricket.
Cricket.
Yes.
Yes.
They were there.
I must tell the cricket, Mr. Bashir, the ambassador is looking for you.
Okay.
Make
thank
yourself
you,
available.
I would like to learn cricket. Cycling. I don't understand why a beautiful country like Uganda, with very nice landscape,
Tour de Uganda.
Tour de Uganda.
Yes.
Tour de Uganda. Tour de l'Ouganda.
Uganda, Uganda.
Uganda. Tour de Uganda. Voilà, comme Tour de France. Tour de France.
Yeah.
Because the landscape, you have everything.
Yes.
To organize something like that.
We just have to organize it.
Okay, but we work on it.
We'll work on it.
Yes.
And we're going to go back. We're going to run to commercial. We'll be talking about private sector and public sector initiatives when we come back. And we'll also be speaking about the Uganda-France Friendship Week, which is happening very soon in Uganda. The show is proudly brought to you by MTN and hosted at the wonderful Speak Apartment on Wampo Avenue. Stay tuned.
The ones who dream are the ones who own the future. What's your next dream? Let's create it together.
Welcome back to the Cedric Live Show, proudly sponsored by MTN and hosted at the wonderful Speak Apartments on Wampo Avenue. I'm still here with His Excellency, the Ambassador of France to Uganda, His Excellency Jules Armand Anniambosou. Better. So, Your Excellency, we were speaking about sport and, of course, the impact that it can have on Uganda. You know, we have a lot of young people, of course. Sport is one tool.
Very talented.
Yes, very talented. We not just in Kampala, but across the country. We have a lot of talented youngsters, and there's this thirst to want to get involved in sport. So as we spoke during the break, I think there are many opportunities in sport. We just have to. It's a big industry because it doesn't just include the athlete. There's the infrastructure. There's the people involved in creating something. And I think France have the expertise. You produced world champions in many sports, to which I think we can do. But anyway, let's move on to another subject. Your work has been both in private sector and public sector. And of course, countries like Uganda are reliant to some extent on foreign aid. Of course, there are many debates about this. I think the less we rely on aid and focus more on creating synergies or coexisting or co-production, we'll be able to to lift Uganda out of that, because aid, of course, comes from your taxpayers' money, and which sometimes they don't like. So, what are your thoughts on aid? I know, of course, it has to be done for now, but what are your thoughts on it?
You know, this week, let me once again refer to what His Excellency President Museveni said during the business forum between EU and Uganda. He said, when we take time to see, to work on the figures, what we produce in Africa, at what price we sell our productions. For instance, what we, the Africans, they send to the western part of the world, and sometimes the cost of some goods the African continent need, at the end of the day, maybe it will be the other parts of the world who have to pay something to the Africans.
Yes.
But to share it differently, but it is exactly the same in my mind. There are some situations, crisis situation.
Yes.
Like
when the locusts.
Yes.
Right, yes.
When aid could make sense.
Yes.
But perennial aid doesn't make sense. And to be frank with you, in reality, there is no aid. Trade, but fair trade.
Yes.
Fair trade. That also need the Africans to change their mindset.
Yes.
To not every time waiting for what can the West could do for us, what the Chinese could do for us, what the US could do for us. The Africans need to change their mindset. To do it, software, education, skills, hardware, infrastructure, energy, and at the end of the day, it is the cost to create value, to create job. What is the cost? So, in a country like Uganda, to make a long story short, there are some situations. Talk about aid could make sense or make sense.
Yes.
But in this country, you have everything. The youth, the population, the climate, the food, yes. The talent, and so on and so on. So, definitively, because I had the chance to work both on the private sector, but I'm high civil servant. But the French laws, with the French laws, you can spend less than 10 years in the private sector. So I spent 7 years, maybe 8, in the private sector, in the mine and the energy sector.
Yes.
And I learned a lot. There is one thing, I'm sure of that. I'm somebody who likes learning. I'm not this kind of people who knows everything, who knows how to do everything, who has all the response to any issue. But there is something I'm very, very, very sure of that. It is the private sector which created the value. It's the private sector. The government in any country,
yes.
in France, in Uganda, could create the framework that could be at least predictable for the investor.
Yes.
To create the environment to promote doing business. But at the end of the day, sport, mining, business, oil, agriculture, tourism, at the end of the day, it is the private sector. So there is a kind of complementarity for me. I learned a lot from the private sector when I spent part of my professional experience in this sector. But there is also something I'm sure of that we need the state, a strong state. If not, that will become a mess. Sometimes maybe it's more difficult to rule a country, an African country, than a Western country, because you need security, stability, health, education at the same time. And as the French president said in Ouagadougou in 2017, maybe it is the first time in the human history that one continent has to tackle many issues.
Yes.
The growing of the population. That could be an opportunity. Education, health, and so on and so on.
Yes.
And he added, Emmanuel Macron, that he also thinks that many solutions will come from the African continent.
Of course.
To be shared with the other parts of the world. So it is to the Africans, and I'm between these Africans because I'm French, but I'm African, to work hard, to think, to not spend our time to talk about
building.
We have to move on.
Maybe we should have less conferences and do more practical things.
Sometimes we need to meet, to talk, but not to talk. We need to act. Not too much. Too much. We need to take action because
And you've done a good job. And I know we're going to run out of time. But what I would like to do is to talk about really quickly, for maybe a couple of minutes, about the Uganda-France Friendship Week, which is 21st March to 28th March 2020. So it's in a short time, in the next few days.
Yes, it's a very short time. I would first like to thank my predecessor, Stéphanie Rivoil, who is my very good friend, Stéphanie, to had 4 years ago this very great idea. Every year in March to organize many events to celebrate our relationship, Uganda and France. Also want to thank my brother William Blick. Because Stephanie and William Blick worked together for the previous edition of the Friendship Week. This year, it will be the 3rd edition. We used to organize Fashion Day, Defense Day, Gastronomy Day, Francophonie Day. We will continue doing all this.
Yes.
But I would like the 1st edition more open to the ordinary people. That means to avoid to be between us, the diplomat, the big man, the big. So we plan to organize some great events. Let me take just one example. We would like to organize a football game at Nambole Stadium.
Yes.
And some of our guests will come from Africa. For instance, Samuel Eto'o,
the footballer,
the footballer that everybody here knows very well.
One of our greatest Africans.
Yes, will be our guest of honor, and I'm so happy to see that for the first time, new sponsors like MTN will come on board.
They are one of the sponsors of this show.
Okay.
Yes, so it's okay to call them out.
Yes, we have been working together, and they are doing a very good job. They are very professional. So we'll organize something. It will be the first time with Samuel Eto'o and other players, African players, very well known too. They will come here to play against some legends of the crane.
Yes, yes.
And I would also want them not to stay at the hotel.
Yes.
But to go to interact with the youth in maybe in the football academy.
Yes.
If we can organize some event to the people on the ground, the youth, for them, that could be very inspiring to see Samuel Eto'o, to see other African players, to interact with them. So this new edition, we have been working on it,
yes.
and it will be in 2 weeks now.
Yes, even less, I think.
Yes.
Today is the what, 11th?
We
I don't know
start on the 21st.
Oh, you're starting on the 21st.
Yeah, 21st by the Francophonie Day.
Yes.
And the football game I was talking about, we plan to organize it on the 22nd of March.
I hope we'll get some tickets to watch these guys
Oh,
play.
of course. You will be, and I'm serious. I would like you, Cedric,
Yes.
because you are not only an inspiring man, you are a gentleman, inspiring man with very great idea. You are a true patriot. Because we also need
Yes.
in our country to be patriotic.
Thank you, Ambassador.
I can see that you are very patriotic, and I appreciate very much those who are like you. I would like to invite not only you,
Yes.
your friend, but also your team.
My team?
Yes.
Do you guys want to go and watch your two play?
Yes.
Yes, that's it.
So don't hesitate. Send me the list of those you would like to invite.
I will
very,
definitely.
very happy. Because what we are doing is first for the Ugandans.
But they don't like it too. They said he's old. So they will be there, Ambassador.
Yes, I'm glad.
Thank you very much for the invite.
No, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. And I will be very happy to welcome your team. You first, but also your team.
Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
Ambassador, thank you very much for being on the show. And we hope we'll see you again before you leave Uganda on the Cedric Live Show. Of course, you and I will meet. And I'd like to thank the viewers for tuning in today. The show is brought to you by MTN and hosted at the wonderful Speak Apartments. Tune in next week.
Was brought to you by
The ones who dream are the ones who own the future. What's your next dream? Let's create it together.